it may be emotional. If you get a little bit emotional, that's okay. That's part of it. We'll move right along. Here's the first question, and I'm addressing the whole panel unless I specifically say, but I want to start from Minister Bright and work this way on this first question. And I want to know, what impact has domestic violence had on your life?
Good afternoon. Just pray with us because we need the guidance of the Holy Spirit to deal in this situation. These things are very, very personal. First, I want to say thank you guys for inviting us, Pastor Amy. Thank you guys for opening up the doors, for letting us come in. I am Minister Bright. I am a victim of domestic violence. Sometimes we look at people and we really don't know what they really going through. Because I look pretty don't mean I'm pretty on the inside. Because things have happened that have had an impact. When we go through domestic violence, and there may be others here that can really attest to this, it changes your view on life. It changes your outlook on life. It changes how you even see people. Because you're in a different world, it paints your world a different color. For as myself, what I have learned, I saw mine actually take place as a little girl. And some of you guys might can attest to some of this. My mother was a victim of abuse. My mother was very beautiful. They said when she walked in, she stopped all the traffic. And sometimes being beauty can cost us too. Because men sometimes can be very insecure when they have a beautiful woman and you think that she's always flirtatious or, causing traffic to stop. She couldn't help how she was born. But anyway, just seeing that as a little girl, my mother, I used to see men beat my mother because she was very beautiful. All her men always thought, she caused chaos. But I could just remember at 5 years old, a guy jumped on my mom and broke her arm. And I was so helpless, as a child. All we know to do is cry. And didn't know what else to do. Not knowing that years down the road that this would have an impact in my life. That I came to the point of saying, that would never happen to me. How many have said that? That'll never happen to me. But then when it happens, as the young lady said earlier, you try to get out, you try to stay out. And sometimes you just keep going back because you think, have I done all I can do? So, have it impact my life in every aspect. How I look at everything, Pastor Amy. How I view people. How I see men. But in all of that, though, healing has taken place. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God for his blood. Thank him that he is a cleanser. He's a healer. He's a deliverer. So I just want to say that for me, for right now.
My name is Sister Jackie Davis. I am a member of the McKinney First Baptist Church, and I'm also the women's Sunday school teacher there. The question has, how has this domestic violence impacted my life? I was sitting there, as Sister Sharon was talking there, I was sitting here and I was just thinking about it. And when I first got these questions, your mind is all over the place, But when I really put some thought about it and really sit down and thought about it, my domestic violence was a little different because it took me a minute to realize that's what it was. Because even though growing up as a little girl right here in East Texas in Dangerfield, I saw a lot of domestic violence. But I grew up in a family that's pushed their stuff up on the rug. We don't talk about that. We didn't talk about that. Even the domestic violence from the kids getting whoopings to whatever. You put your long sleeve shirts on and you go to school. Daddy broke mama nose, those type of things. But you didn't talk about those things. And I remember going through all of that. I became a very strong woman because I had a lot of strong women in my family. And I always thought that I wasn't going to be defeated. And I remember when I was 21, I was in college, I came home one weekend. I had an older cousin who was married, and she was in a domestic relationship. And we were walking and talking, and she was just different. Her behavior, her demeanor, everything had changed. And I was like, why are you staying in this? I just couldn't get it. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why are you staying in this? I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. And so I went home and I thought about her. And then I ended up getting married probably about a year and a half later. And I couldn't get why she was staying in her domestic relationship. When I got married, I thought it was happily ever after. And then it changed. Things started changing. It was physical. Well, it started out more so abusive, as verbal, emotional, and then one day we got physical. And that really what stopped us when we got physical. But what happened was, with my domestic violence, like I said, it was emotional, verbal, and all of that. I didn't realize it was happening because of the way that I grew up as a child. I had no idea that this was happening to me. But then I realized that I am in a domestic abusive relationship. And what happened with me is, I remember our last fight that we had that became physical was, and I was telling Sister Sharon about it the other day. I said, we got into a fight. He hit me in my nose, broke my nose. I picked up this jar, hit him in the head, and he's bleeding. And then we drive to the hospital and tell him we've been in a car wreck. and people did that. And here I am, still sweeping up on the rug as a little girl. I remember all the domestic abuse in my family. But that was a turning point. That was a turning point for me. And I had to realize that I'm brought up in the church. I know the Word of God. I know there's victory. I know that. And I began to get back in that Word of God. And I'm telling you, what changed it for me was Jesus. Nobody but Jesus. That's what changed it for me. And my reason for staying in that, people said, why do you stay in that? Why do you stay in an abusive relationship? There are so many phases and stages of abuse and domestic relationships. Some of it you stay in it because of selfishness, personal reasons. Some of it comes from fear, anxiety, worry. You're worried about this. But the only way out is to turn it over to Jesus. Because when Jesus went to the cross, he gave us that freedom to be free in him.
I would read the question, but I ain't got my glasses. And I don't forgot what the question is.
Impact of domestic violence on your life.
Okay. Well, for me, I'm gonna be short and to the point. Domestic violence, how it has impacted me is it makes me stay ready so I don't have to get ready. And what I mean by that is I stay prayed up.
The impact domestic violence has had on me. I deal with when people tell me that they love me. It always leads me to feel like, okay, so if you love me, what are you going to do to me next? It makes you question how other people feel about you. I met my husband in high school, and as soon as I graduated from high school, against my dad's wishes, because my dad kept saying, you ain't got yourself nothing right there. But I loved him. At least I thought I loved him. And when he would turn on this quote-unquote charm, after he would do something, there goes the charm button. And you would think, okay, well, maybe he's going to be okay. Maybe he's going to be all right for a minute. And that's just how long it lasted, for a minute. So for me, domestic violence in my life for 23 years has made me question the word love.
Very good. Hold the mic right there, Sister Love. Because you've touched on the next question, the next thing I want to talk about is because all of you ladies have what's called baggage, whether you realize it or not. And the next question is, and Sister Yolanda's already kind of talked about it, what baggage do you carry into the next relationship from this domestic relationship to domestic violence? And men, you might want to listen very closely to these answers.
The baggage that you carry into the next relationship are questions in the back of your mind. And when that person starts to tell you how much you mean to them, or how much they love you, or how much they care and they would never hurt you, that question is in your mind. Is that a lie? I mean, can I trust that? And so often, it ruins relationships for you because you can't trust the way that you need to, or the way that you even want to. Some of us want to give everything to that next person, but then you find yourself holding back because you gave everything to the first person. And when the first person, in my case, put a shotgun in my face and told me if I was to breathe that he would blow my head off, and then he pulls the trigger, it just makes you question, how could someone say that they love you, but yet and still they hurt you so extremely that they damage you? And that's what domestic violence does. It damages you. You are never the same. It is a process to get past. Even after you've survived domestic violence, it's a process to get past the point to where you can live a normal life and say, okay, I can start to trust, or I can start to open up, because you stay kind of sheltered and closed in to yourself. Even though you try to give everything that you can, you still stay sheltered and closed up. So that baggage you take with you, and it's not easy to be dropped off. I mean, you cannot just go from one relationship into the next and say, okay, you know what? I learned in this relationship, I'm not going to do the same thing in my next relationship. That's a lie. You cannot, there's not a relationship with a person with dealing with domestic violence. You cannot just pick up that bag and move it to the other side of the room and say, I'm not taking this bag with you. It's not that easy.
Very good. That's very profound, Sister Rhonda. I hope men were listening too, because I say all the time that when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're not only in a relationship with that person, you're in a relationship with that person's life experiences. That's why you can't fill in the blanks and understand some things about other people, because you don't always know their life experiences.
Have to pick the mic up, please.
All right. Is that better?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, Sister Davis, kind of talk to us about what baggage that you've carried into other relationships. I met Sister Brother, I'm sorry. Got too many Yolandas and too many Davises on there.
Well, for me, and like I say, everybody's experience is different.
Right.
I try not to take baggage. What I do is, because love is an action word.
Okay.
And you can tell me that all day, but until you show me, and I believe if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck. And it's hard to hide it, and it's hard to hide who you really are. It just comes out. And so as for me and my husband have been together now for 25 years. So I tried not to take anything, because what I did was I forgave. And once I forgave, I threw it just like God did in the sea of forgetfulness, because I don't even want to remember it. I want it to stay as far back. Just because I look back, I don't want to go back. And so I can talk about it because I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of what God has done in my life for my life. And so for me, I try not to take, and that's just me, I try not to take baggage with me. I love each individual for who they are and for how they treat me.
Very good. Now, Sister Davis.
Well, as Sister Davis as she was saying, she's trying not to take some of that baggage, and it takes some time to get to that point. And I can remember before I got to that point, because I'm at that point now where I don't feel everybody got a clean slate, and it's fresh, it's new. But before I got to that point, I was looking for the duck, quack. You know, and so you're looking for things, and it, like she said, it's trust. It's hard to trust again when you've gone through the emotional abuse. it's hard to trust someone. So mine was trust and then categorizing men, being stereotypical about men, period, you know. So it was trust, and you're waiting for that. But once you get to the point that you can put it behind you, life is good. Life is good.
Mr. Bright, what baggage do you carry in relationships? You talked about what you saw as a young child. That certainly has impacted your perspective on things.
Y'all forgive me, I'm gonna need to stand up a minute here. I suffer with rheumatoid arthritis. I can't sit long. And that's probably a good thing because I have to move around a little bit. But what I want to say is, spiritually, everybody in here got some baggage. We all got baggage. Now, some of us got some carry-ons, and some of us got some big old luggage that's got to go underneath the plane. And some of us got some backpacks, and some of us got some fanny packs. But we all got some baggage. So we got baggage. So y'all know that right there, we have to, when we come in contact with people, we always get their representative. You know, come on, I'm going to break it down. Y'all know I've been in church all my life, but I'm not the church type. I'm going to come on and bring it home. We come into the church because we trust people to be who they say they are. We trust them. But I'm a firm believer, when people show you who they are, believe them. Because that's really who they are. A lot of times we see the red flags and we know the red flags, and we'll say, oh, he was just having a bad day. No, not so much. She was just having a bad day. If you study people long enough, they will show you who they are. You just study them. You don't have to ask them where they from. You don't have to ask them. Y'all know how we do it down here in the country. Who's your people, honey? Who's your people? Just study them long enough, you'll know who they are. They'll tell you who they are without ever telling you. But we as women and men, we just overlook these things. We pray, and the Lord didn't even told us a lot of times these people ain't even for us, and we done forgot what the Lord said. We just went on with it because I thought he was cute. I thought she was fine. But how to pack my life is because now I'm a studier of people. I wait and let people show me who they are. You can tell me what you want to, but I'm going to wait and see what you do. Now, I'm one of them kind, I'm a show me kind of girl. Tell me what you want to. Jesus told us that he loved us. But not that he just tell us, but he showed us. Because he went to the cross and he died for us. And he shedded his blood. So we should take that same analogy when we're dealing with people and let them see what is the sacrifice that they're willing to do to have you. Because it comes with a sacrifice. Love is a sacrifice, Pastor Amy. Love is a sacrifice. I remember a long time ago, I used to go to Pastor Tony Evans' church in Dallas. And he gave a great example of love. The lady said, I think this guy asked Pastor Tony, said, well, you know, I don't know if he was trying to date two women. Y'all know how that goes. Come on now. He was trying to date two women, but he was trying to figure out which one was the one for him. So he asked Dr. Tony, he said, I don't know what to do. I'm a little confused. And then Dr. Tony said, Pastor Amy, he said, I got your answer. He said, which one is willing to make the greatest sacrifice for you? So that's what we need to ask people. What are they willing to do? Sacrifice spiritually for you. Are they worried about your spirit man? Or are they worried about your physical man? Because some things just physical. Let's just call it what it is. And we don't think domestic violence happen in the church. Can I say this, Pastor Amy? You might not ask me to come back to your church no more. Y'all might not want me back no more. Y'all might say, don't let Mr. Bright come back to that church no more. But y'all know domestic violence is going on in the church. It's going on right here in the church. There are Christian people who are married that are abusive to each other. Oh, we don't want to talk about that. That's taboo right there. You know, the older people say, what say, Sister Jackie? Put that under the rug. We're going to put that under the rug, and I'm going to leave that alone, Pastor Amy. We'll come back to that in a minute. But it's in the church.
Before you sit down and get comfortable, since you went into the spiritual realm, and this is not on your sheet, so don't be looking down there.
Okay.
Being a minister and suffering domestic violence, how did that impact your spiritual walk with the Lord? Why did you ever question why would the Lord allows that to happen to you, and how did you deal with that?
I said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I guess he just brought it right on out. How being a minister, now I can give you my own life experience. Prayed about it, married this person, and like they said, they wine you, they dine you, they tell you you're wonderful. And then you think, oh Lord, this is the man that God told me to marry. It happens. I know a lot of us, we shame to tell about it, but we think that was the right one. That was the one. Then you get married and everything goes to hell. I'm just going to call it what it is. Everything go to hell. The sex stop. Everything stop. We don't want to talk about this stuff in the church, y'all. Come on now. You know why we got so many affairs going on in the church? Because these are taboo things that we don't want to talk about. You know, so my personal experience, it impacted me because I know this was the person that God had told me to marry. I prayed about it. I don't jump into stuff too quick. But little did I know that we better check out the people that we connect ourselves with, because that baggage is going to come out. This person that I married came up in an abusive home. His mother and father were abusive to each other. All he saw was the dad beating the mom all the time as a child. So he becomes a man, and what do you think he do? What do you think he do to control the woman and tell her what she is and ain't gonna do? Because where did he get it from? His daddy. Where did he get it from? His mama. Dysfunctional people will have dysfunctional children. Now, all of us have been in domestic violence, but if we dig long enough, we've seen it somewhere in our life, in our families, in our moms, our dads, our aunties, our uncles. Somebody showed us. That's a learned behavior. That is not natural. You sit there and you figure out how to control people. Because you know what domestic violence really is? It's about control. It's about somebody trying to get you to do what they want you to do. Come on now. In a nutshell, it's about control. How has it impacted me as a minister? I am very, very cautious now. And you know what? I'm very, very confused at times too. Because have y'all know God will tell you to do something? And I'm going to give you a great example of scripture, because I don't want y'all to think I just made this up on my own. But it came out of scripture. You remember when Moses God told Moses to go tell Pharaoh to let his people go? Now y'all go back and read that if you think I'm telling a story. How many times did God change Pharaoh's heart? 3. He said, Moses, go tell him. Moses came back and told God what? Now you told me to go tell him. I went and told him, but he didn't let him go. God said, go back. See, God changed it. Sometimes we think when God set things in motion that everything is going to be hunky-dory. Sometimes God will work things out to work things in. Sometimes things will fall out of place so things can fall into place. Am I right? Y'all following me so far? So, Pastor Amy, you said, how did it impact me? Because you know what? Have y'all know without a shadow of a doubt that God told you to do something and it didn't turn out the way you thought it was? And you know that you prayed, you know that you waited on the Lord, and you said, Lord, what did happen? But it's just a test. It's just a test to see how much you really gonna stay with God. You know, you say, well, Pastor Amy, I had to make a decision. Do I stay or do I go? Because when domestic violence come into play, I got to go. I don't care who told me. God, he can tell me down the street. He'll catch me on the next go-round. Because you know why? Because I know what my self-worth is. I know who I am. And I know what I deserve, and I won't let nobody else tell me less. Amen. So I know you being mean to me, want to beat on me. No, I'm too cute for you to be hitting on now. We're not going to do that one. And I'm way too cute for you to cuss me out. We sure not going to do that one. So we just got to remember that what are we willing to tolerate? That's the question. What are you willing to tolerate?
Beautiful.
Thank you. Microphone to Sister Davis. Well, let me ask you a different question. And this is to all the panelists. Because there's a big elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room's question is, this has been so violent, so cruel, why did you stay? 25 years, Sister Davis? 25 years, really? You stayed? Can you help us to understand why you stayed?
Yes. Mine wasn't 25 years ago. I caught it in 5 years. Yes, Mr. Sharon said something that, yes, I did. I married him twice. The first 5 years was horrible. They were horrible. And remember I told you about my cousin when I said why would she stay? And she was only dealing with one part of domestic violence. When I got married, mine had everyone you could think of. 1, 2, 3. I mean, from the drinking to the drugs to the womanizing to the, you just name it. He had everything you could think of, he had them all. And I stayed in that for 5 years. And you say, why did I stay? And to be honest with you, some of it because of things that I was taught as a child of what a wife does. Some of it was selfishness because I don't get defeated. Some of it because children, because we had kids, we had 2 babies by then. And then just reasons, just personal reasons. You just stay. But I stayed in it for almost 5 years. We went through domestic 5 years, and then I divorced him and married him again in 6 months. Yeah, I did that. I divorced him, and we got divorced, and then after the divorce, we turned around and got remarried. But as I was telling Sister Sharon, I said when I remarried him, when I got out of it, and the Lord allowed me to get out of it. When I married him this time, that second time, I remember the Lord told me to do it. And I told Sharon that, and I said, I remember he told me to do that. And I promise you, when I married him that second time, beautiful marriage. It was a wonderful marriage. I had to just step back myself and step back and look at it and say, Lord, look at you.
All right.
Father, look at you. My husband went and found a church home. We was over the youth and the church, kids. We did that. God turned it around.
Well, the Bible says a sanctified wife or sanctified husband.
He turned it around. He turned it around. And that took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of praying and just being obedient to God's word. Being obedient to God's word.
All right, very good. Sister Roach, why did you stay?
I had to be crazy.
All right, she's keeping it real.
I mean, that's all when I look back, I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with. How crazy were you? You know, and when you look at the things that are happening now, and if I had known what I know now back then, it's no way I would have gone through what I went through, even though people were, I had a family. I had somewhere to go. I didn't have any children with this young man. But when you're in a relationship, you're always thinking you can fix somebody else.
Yeah.
But how can you fix somebody else if you're broken yourself? So if you continue to stay and both are broken, but you're trying to fix somebody else and you're not fixed yourself, then you find yourself staying. You stay and you stay until something drastic happens and somebody may lose their life, or I mean, things just happen in this life and we have no control over them. But when I look back on those 8 years that I stayed, I just attested to I had to be crazy. And I thank God that He gave me my mental stability back and I was able to move forward.
A gun to your head. Black eyes, busted lips. Why did you stay?
Fear. That's a good one. I stayed 100% because of fear. I had a man in my life that could change at the drop of a hat. So I never knew from 1 minute to the next what his mood was going to be like. 1 minute he was an angel from heaven, so to speak. The next minute he was the devil's advocate. After you are beaten, you are almost, and someone can actually get in a vehicle and try to run you over. They can, so much that I went through, and I didn't even know if I was even worth getting out of it. When you're in an abusive relationship, people tell you things, they talk to you certain ways, they fill your head with negative thoughts. So many times, you know, I was like, okay, God, is this your way for me to leave the world? So I stayed out of fear because I felt maybe if I left, like he told me, he would always find me. And there was no way I could get away from him. He was in my mind. He knew my routine every day. So he had plenty of opportunity to do what he wanted to do to me, whenever he wanted to do it to me. This is a man that, coming from my grandmother's funeral, and it's late, it's dark, and this is the same guy that could put me out of a vehicle and leave me on the side of the road. So if he could do that, then what else could he do? If he could put a shotgun in my face and pull the trigger, what else could he do? So I stayed out of fear.
And that one makes a lot of sense to me. Those two very good answers. Either you're crazy or you're scared.
Right.
As far as reasons to stay. And there's some other reasons too. Children and thinking that the kids are better off in a relationship with their both natural parents in the house. And I certainly understand that. We're going to give our panelists one final thought, but before we do that, perhaps you have thought of a question that you would like to ask the panel as a group or one individually. So we're going to take a couple minutes to grant that opportunity. If you're on this side of the bleachers right here and you have a question that you'd like to propose to one of the panelists or collectively, please stand and ask your question. Y'all are very curious people. What about on the other side of the, there you go. Go ahead, sister.
I don't have a question, but I'm a psychologist,
Okay.
and I've talked with a lot of different people on mental health issues, and one of the main issues is domestic violence. I've had a young lady that came to me that she was shot. I'm from Shreveport, but I was raised in Connie. And I'm gonna say, I'm not on your panel, but I'm touched. And I really like what you're doing today. And my mother was killed from domestic violence when I was 2. I became a victim of domestic violence in a marriage. But I rose today to say that it was a young lady in Shreveport. I'm a little, excuse me.
That's okay.
I'm a little emotional right now. But I had a lady to come in, like I have sessions with young ladies that have been in domestic violence, like I said. And I had a young lady to come in, I'm a school teacher also. And I had a young lady to come in and she had been shot. It was all over the news. Her husband had came and she had left him and ran, and she came back to her home, and he was in her home. And he was laying there and he was waiting on her. And he shot her and shot himself and killed himself, but she's a survivor. And I have sessions with her today. So I say domestic violence is real.
It's real.
It's real. And yes, a lot of time our biggest thing is fear. It's fear. Thank you. But I just thought I'd rise and say that today.
Well, thank you. Enlightening us, and
Oh, okay.
you're right on point. Sister Sharon.
Okay, my question is, excuse me, my voice is gone. Were there any indicators while you were dating that your soon-to-be husband or whatever was violent? Did he do anything? Second one, did any of you stay? Well, okay, second question. Did any of you stay because of money?
I like to answer that one.
Yeah, it was definitely. No, it wasn't because of money. No, not at all. You definitely see all the flags, and I think anybody that's in a domestic relationship, I think you see the flags. You may not want to call them out, you may not want to recognize them, but I think the flags are there. You know, they're there, and I think we just tune them out. But it was something that I wanted to say to Pastor Amy when you asked about the spiritual part, and then when she's got up and she spoke a few minutes ago. From a spiritual standpoint, I think all of us as women and fathers too, we have to teach our children. We have to teach our children. And that's spiritually what I've gotten out of this is. We have to teach our children about marriage, about relationships. And not only that, it's having that relationship and that intimacy with God, having that personal relationship with God. Because when a marriage is truly built on the foundation of God, it helps the marriage so much more. But I think that as parents, we have to teach our children. And I think that with me growing up, a lot of things were taught, but that deep stuff in a marriage, it wasn't taught. You know, they taught me violence, they taught me all that. But when it comes to that true stuff in a marriage, they kind of just eased over the top of it. You know, and I think if we really get down where they say older women teach these younger women, you have to do that. You have to do that.
Very good.
I know she asked, was money involved? I like that question. Because that's what it's all based on from the beginning. I ain't gonna marry you, you ain't got no job, do you? We're gonna talk real talk today. Mine wasn't about the money, but I need to make sure he got some. So for me, I had just got married, had a brand new house, bought me a brand new Mercedes for my birthday. But let me tell you something, before I tolerate any of that, I walked out and left the house, left the car, left the money, because I knew I needed peace of mind. If you ain't got peace of mind, you don't have anything else. I can ride around in my car and look cute all I want to, but my mind is messed up. My body is messed up. My bank account might look good, but my joy is gone. You don't have no spirit. You don't have no joy. You don't have any of that. And a lot of times we get into these relationships based on materialistic things. When we say, Sister Jackie just said, we need to get into these things based on spiritual things. What does he bring to the table spiritually? What does he do? Is he a man after God's own heart? Can he pray? Can he help me when I need a problem? Besides anything else, am I answering your question?
You're doing great.
Okay. Is money involved? A lot of times we stay because money is involved. She said she was afraid to leave. Fear, a lot of times we don't leave because we don't know how we gonna make it. We might have little bitty kids. We stay and take the abuse and becoming a single mother trying to raise 4 kids by ourselves. We stay in the relationship because he make all the money. He's the breadwinner. Have anybody been in those kind of relationships where you gotta wait till he get paid because you was a stay-home mom taking care of the kids? Those things are real. You know, people stay for different reasons, for fear. And just to say, I commend the counselor lady over here. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'll give you the last part of my story. This is very, very dear to me. Now, I told y'all my mother was violated, right? She was domestic. But nobody knew that my mother took her life too. My mother committed suicide because of the domestic violence. I lost my mother. Because you know what? He beat her down so bad till she didn't feel like she was worth. I've never talked about it, never shared this with nobody till y'all to today. That my mother took her life because of domestic violence. Because of a man telling her she was not worth it. Or she didn't deserve nothing. Matter of fact, she was so into the man that she gave all her kids away. I was included. She gave all 5 of her kids away trying to hold on to a man that ended up costing her her life. So it's very, very dear to me when I talk to people. I just assume that, hey, everybody knows about domestic violence, but we don't talk about it in the church. We don't talk about the Christian people domesticing each other out. Come on now, we got Christian men that's talking to your wife crazy. You got Christian wives talking to their husbands crazy. You done shut down the shop. You don't cook. You don't clean. You don't do none of that. But I'm going to come back, Pastor Amy, another day. We'll talk about that another time. But we don't talk about that in the church. We don't talk about that because we all come in the house, we lift our hands and we praise the Lord. We go home and fight like cats and dogs. We pull up on the parking lot and we done cussed each other out. I mean, I use no thank you Jesus words either. We're talking about you can go to hell kind of words. Y'all gonna let me sit down. I'm gonna sit. I'm be alright. I tell y'all, Pastor Andy probably ain't gonna invite me back.
I think it's something about that name, Sharon, I believe. And for those of you who don't know, you probably, boy, he's really rude to Sharon, this Sharon over here, but that's my sister. We poke at each other like that all the time. We're just normal behavior. So you had an opportunity to ask your questions, and so what we're gonna, oh, we got one more question? Oh, okay. Well, man, all right.
It's really not a question. I just want to turn things around just a little bit. We as men, we touched on a little bit, but we get abused too. Now, some of the reason that we stay and some of the reason that we don't report it is because when the police come, what are they going to do? They're going to use everything they learn. They're going to use all that on you. So we tend to kind of back up on that. We're scared to go to jail. We can't leave because you have people saying, well, you're not taking care of your family. You left your family. So we are stuck right there until we let these kids get grown. Then we get up out of here. They get out of college, we get up out of here.
That's a man's perspective. Did y'all hear what I said earlier? That we view life from the lenses in which we have lived life. That's right. So as men, we have lived a life different from a woman. That's why there's so much, I don't want to use the word friction, but so much misunderstanding in relationship, because you're not just married to that person, you're married to that person's life experience. And you don't know all that stuff is in that bag. No. You gotta go through it and go through it as you work in that relationship. But all that stuff be coming at you one time. Where did that come from? Well, that's a result of that person's life experiences. And we do the same thing with them as well.
I would like to ask the panel, what would you tell, or how would you minister to a young lady, or I guess any age lady, that is going through that, and like Sister Roach said, there's a process. How, if they have not made it through the process of wanting or knowing that they are worth, have that worth, how would you minister to them to get them to the point to where they need to get out of it?
Very good question. What do you say to them? What advice do you give?
That's not an easy question, but it is a great question. In my experience, they have to be at that point. There is nothing that you can really do or say to get someone that's being abused to the point to where they want to get out of that situation. If it is not already made up in them and they have not already first seek a way out, there is no way, if they're not ready to leave, you can't force them to leave. I stayed 23 years because I wasn't mentally in the capacity to where I felt like I was ready to go. Like Cousin Otis said several times before, we pray on the situation, we pray for the person. You can't pray to fix someone else, because if they're not praying for themselves, it's still not going to work. That person has to be mentally ready to take the steps and go through the process of getting out of any domestic violence situation, whether it be physical, verbal, whatever. They have to be mentally ready to get out of that situation. And that's been my experience, even with some of those young ladies that I have mentored. some of the young men and women that I've talked to, they're not ready. They'll change. I'll give them a couple more days. They'll change. I'll pray about it. God will change them. If I pray hard enough, God will change them. If I pray hard enough, God will give me the strength to stay. Unless you are ready, it's not going to change.
Let's hear from each panelist and let this be your closing thought. What advice would you give to a person in a domestic violence situation? Sister Roach.
Like I say, I work at the hospital as well, and I teach cosmetology. So I'm around young women all day. And some of the stuff that they tell me, I really rather not know, but how many of you know that God puts you where He needs you to be? And so what I do is, I don't, same way I am with my own children, I don't sugarcoat it. I tell them what it is. If they come to me and because a lot of them will not talk to parents, but if they can find an outlet through me, then I know that that's where God has put me. I do more social work than I do cosmetology at the hospital. And so what I tell them is, I give them just a little snippet of what I've been through, because I can't tell you how to do it if I've never done it. And so if all else fails, if it's something that is really, really just drastic, and I know that this young lady has no way of making this decision for herself, I will call a parent. I'm gonna call a parent, because I'd rather for you to think that I'm a snitch than for me to have to come and say a resolution over you. Amen. And so I don't, as I said, I don't sugarcoat it. Nobody's story is the same. No two people will do the exact same thing. But at any given time, if you see where somebody is being mistreated, it doesn't have to always be physical. It can be mentally. A person can tear you down just with a word. Amen. But I tell those young ladies every day, know your worth. Are you worth it? Or is he worth it? Because a lot of times he's not worth it. The majority of the time, he's not worth it. But I look at them like I was when I was 16 years old. Because these parents are not sitting down with their young women and having a conversation with them, because they are too busy trying to be their friends. We need to get back into the mode of being parents and not friends. When a lady tells me that her daughter is her best friend, you know what I say? You are living a really pathetic life. Because your daughter should not be your best friend. I need you to get out and get social. Because your daughter is just what she is, your daughter. And she is going to mimic whatever she sees you do. If you have a man living with you, she's going to live with the man. If you have a man hitting on you, she's going to find her a man that's hitting on her. So just know that she is a sponge. And at this point, she's sponging off of whatever you do.
What would I tell the person that's in a domestic relationship? Honestly, get out. And that's just the truth. Because it's not going to get any better. It is not going to get any better. You can go to counseling. You can do all of those things. Until you first recognize that you're in captivity, that you're bound, you're in a relationship that's going nowhere. You got to do something. You got to make a change. You got to make a change. If it's that bad that it's life-threatening, get out. If you see that you can salvage the marriage, go to counseling, do those type of things, do it. But you got to make a change. You got to do something different. Because if you stay that way, somebody's going to get hurt. Because it goes from bad to worse. And I experienced that. Like I said, mine was mostly emotional and verbal. And then that last time we got physical. And that was our turning point. Because I imagine if we had stayed there, physical was going to come again, and somebody would have gotten hurt. But we had to. I made a change, and so I still say, get out, get help.
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna sit down this time. But the young lady back there is the same question you asked him too, Pastor Amy. How would you minister to that person that's in a domestic violence situation? I am a licensed minister. I can never tell a person to leave their marriage. I would never tell a person to do that. And I know you may say, oh, really? No. I have to give them the options, the good and the bad. They have to choose what's best for them. I never want to be the person that say, leave your husband, even though I know he beating you every night. I can't say that. What I can say is tell her how much Jesus loved her and how worth she is, what's her worth. And what I do tell women, because I deal with women all the time, I deal with women that are in domestic violence situations. What I tell them is try to tell them about the love of Jesus. Because God is the only one can change people. We can't change people. Now what we can do, we can make decisions to get out of things. But you got to help them see the light. You got to pray that God will move in their mind and in their hearts. Open up their eyes, take the blinders off so they can see that they are so much more deserving of what they're in. Sometimes people think that that's all they deserve. So they stay in. Because you know what they've been told all their life? You ain't worth nothing. You ain't gonna never be nothing. And that's what's embedded in their brain. And that's what we gotta get past. We're fighting to tear down those walls that have been built in people's mind because all your life somebody told you you ain't gonna be nothing. You don't even deserve anything. That's the hardest part of ministry, is to help people feel the love of Jesus, to know how much he died for us, how he gave his life for us, what we mean to him. That's the wall that we have to go to when we're trying to help people. Because you know, you can't just say, leave it. Now I can pray and I'm going to ask God to move in their heart to help them to leave. I ain't going to tell her I told God to help them leave, but I'm going to pray that he help them leave. And since I can't tell them, so we have to be real with people too. Because sometimes in the church, we're not real. Sometimes we ain't real up in here. We're talking about, girl, just give it to the Lord and let him work it out. No, God ain't got to work some stuff out. Some stuff God done gave us 5 senses to make a good decision to get out of it. Everybody talking about God, you got to wait on the Lord. No, you don't wait. God done came by and went and came back again. And you still sitting there waiting. I'm going to leave that alone.
Pastor Amy, you did tell us to not do the Sunday school teacher or the preacher role. So that's why I say get out. When I say get out at whatever level that you need to get out. Because when I left mine, when I went home, my mother finally looked at me and said, ooh, baby, I'm glad you came up with some air.
Well, let's give our panelists a round of applause. They have done an outstanding job of educating us on the impacts of domestic violence. You know, it's kind of hard to tell your story. And it's especially hard to tell your story in front of some people that you don't know. But they have poured out their hearts so that we all can be helped. You know, and I tell Greater Oak Grove all the time that, you know, hurt people, hurt people. Help people, help people. And save people, save people. So they have helped us today, and we certainly appreciate them.